Welcome, everyone, to the St. Patrick's Day of Action Medicare for All Mail-a-thon. Woo! We're the
Happy St.
Heartland
Patrick's
Mommas.
Day!
We're the Heartland Mommas, the podcast from the edge of the Great Red Divide, progressive and positive all the time, bringing you the news and views that maybe you could use. I'm Heidi Henry.
And I'm Murray Briel. We live stream twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays on Facebook. We also have all of our previous recorded episodes everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. Quite a good following out there on YouTube. And our newest venture, an independent radio show called Heartland Mommas Unrolled. Check us out. Be sure to get all that information on our website at Heartland Mommas.
MAMAS.com. And we hope that you'll show up, like, share, subscribe. Listen, Murray, both of us were former candidates, and both of us fought the battle for Medicare for All. I fought it on a state level. You fought it on a federal level. We had hoped to make the changes that we all need to see for the better health and wellness of all of us. Right, Murray?
Absolutely. There's always been a pushback for any legislation that would challenge the status quo. And these are things we talk about a lot on our podcast, Heidi. We talk about how who is anti the legislation that's being put forward. And when they are, take a look at why. And oftentimes our research, our shows, our news have found that it's mercenary capitalism that's at the fundamental base of this. Now we know that we have so many problems in our healthcare system and such disparity. And if anything, COVID-19 taught us that. More than ever, it became glaring, the inadequacies in all of our healthcare needs, for all of our healthcare needs.
Well, everybody's got a horror story. Everybody, unless you're married to a doctor or you are a doctor, has got a healthcare horror story. I have one. We'll share that later because it's extra special. And you have some too. So everybody has had to struggle at some time because having somebody who's sick, that you love, that you care for, a child, a spouse, yourself, it changes your life. It changes everything about what you do. And we're going to share some wonderful music to break up the horror stories as we go through this day on our mail-a-thon. And what is the point of the mail-a-thon, Marie? It's to sharpen up your green pens and pencils and get your note cards out and send out some letters to President Biden. And Peter Janko is going to pick up here in a few minutes, and he's going to tell you all about how to do that. So, Marie, I'd like to talk a little bit more about Medicare for All and what it means to our country. It means no more bankruptcies. It means no more poorhouses. It means no more living.
But wait, Heidi, there's more. It also means no middleman in the healthcare industry, which would take away a lot of jobs that are up and down the corporate food chain. And that is one of the big fears of having a government Medicare for All program. At least that's what we heard on the trail. And that's what we hear all the time is that, one of the biggest arguments against it is,
Well, we don't need bigger government. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't bigger government. This is better health care.
Or what will we do with all these people who won't have a job when we put the private healthcare industry out of business? That's another one that comes up, and we often have to defy these myths and explain that progress, really the people would be able to be transitioned. They have plans in place. They're working on plans. But, they wouldn't be... What?
Murray, we didn't fight for the cowboys that were riding the Pony Express to keep them employed because we needed a better mail delivery system, did we? Did we worry really about their jobs when we really needed a better mail delivery system?
I wonder, Heidi, we have to do a show on that. We have to dig into if there were people who were worried that a better system would put... I bet there were. I bet there were those capitalists out there that were.
That owned the ponies and the scrawny little men from
And the
Laser
stables and the hay and the business and the jockeys. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
See, to me, fighting for the healthcare that we have now, the healthcare system we have now, the for-profit healthcare system is like fighting for the frickin' Pony Express. It makes no sense, Murray. So,
But then again, Heidi, as we show over and over and over in almost every show we do, most things that happen don't make any sense. And Washington and states and local governments want you to feel that way. They want you
yes.
to go, this makes sense. Why aren't you doing it? And they'll tell you, doesn't make any sense. We find common
Well,
sense
Murray,
lacking quite a bit.
we're gonna throw this show to Peter Janko right now so he can get people motivated to write their cards in green pen, black or blue will do, and get your Medicare mail-a-thon pens and address labels going. So, Murray, let's throw back to Pete. We'll see you later, everybody, at the break. Take care.
Good evening. Welcome to Medicare for All Northern Illinois' first Mail-a-thon. Because President Joe Biden has indicated that he would veto any Medicare for All legislation that should come across his desk, I am asking all of you to begin writing paper letters to President Joe Biden, urging him to get behind Medicare for All. Unlike emails and phone calls, paper letters take up physical space in the White House mailroom, so they cannot easily be ignored. Your letters do not have to be very complicated. You do not have to make a case for Medicare for All. Simply take a sheet of paper, write on it, I want my Medicare for All, or whatever comes to your mind. 1 or 2 sentences should be more than enough. Take that sheet of paper, fold it up, stick it in an envelope, address it to President Joe Biden, and put a 55-cent stamp on it and mail it. It's really that simple. We hope you enjoy our show tonight. Please share amongst your family and friends. Please also urge them to write letters to President Biden, urging him to get behind Medicare for All. If you'd like to be on a future show, please email us at the information below. Thank you. We'll start the show tonight with Bob Wickline's Medicare for All.
Now's the time to finally realize we the people must make some choices. If we want single-payer health care, now's the time to raise our voices till they hear us in the halls of government and behind each corporate door. That we're sick and tired of getting less and less while paying more and more. Put people before profit. Join with many doctors, nurses, and other concerned Americans in support of America's best and most affordable health care plan. Single-payer, improved Medicare for all. Let them hear us! Medicare for all, because healthcare is a right. Medicare for all, and the U.S. saw the light. That the best healthcare plan is a single-payer plan. Now's the time to finally put it on the table. Contact your legislators and tell them to save Medicare as we know it and expand it into Medicare as we need it. Improved Medicare for all, because your interests are special too.
Our next speaker is Missy Funk. She lives in Northern Illinois. She was featured in a Bernie Sanders ad pertaining to Medicare for All. A link will be provided later. This is her story. All right. Take it on, Missy.
Hi, my name is Missy Funk. I am from McHenry County, Illinois. I am a personal assistant, a caregiver, and an artist. My background is pretty much me spending the last 20 years of my life taking care of my mom and chasing down all the help and services that she would need, dealing with post-polio syndrome, being on a vent and having a trach, all the supplies that are required, all the wound care supplies, all of the incontinence supplies as she became bedridden 100% in 1999. We had times where my mom would ration her pain medicine because of the high deductibles. One year my mom lost her home health care physician because he was no longer in the network. It's terrible that it's no longer about care. It's about who's cutting the check. And that's not healthy. We're exploiting patients that need medicine, that need care. I trust that Bernie Sanders is going to fight for health care and to lower prescription costs and to make sure that other families don't have to go through what we went through, living paycheck to paycheck and worrying about health care or the lack thereof all the time. I really hope you consider learning more about Bernie Sanders if you don't already know a lot about him. If you want to know more about him, please contact me. Let's have a conversation. Thank you.
Our next speaker is J.J. Wett. He is a political activist for well over a decade and is currently running for city alderman in the DeKalb, Illinois area. This is his story on why we need Medicare for all. Take it away, JJ.
Hi everyone, my name is JJ Wett, and I'm running for Ward 2 Alderman in DeKalb, Illinois. I'm also a huge advocate for Medicare for all. I have been for many, many years, have thought we needed nationalized health care since the beginning of my time. As a man with a disability, I've grown up, of course, having to deal with the insurance industry over and over and over again, for my basic needs to be covered. And of course, it depended on the insurance company whether I would get those basic needs covered. A lot of those basic needs, include medical supplies to help with tracheal sectioning, the trachs themselves, the circuits. Often the other medical supplies include nutritional supplements for my gastrostomy tube as well. And I can't tell you the number of times I have spent on the phone with insurance companies, and also the number of times my mother has even spent on the phone with insurance companies trying to get all of this stuff covered. And with Medicare for all, we're all paying into one giant pot instead of spreading that money out to different pots and needing services or equipment to be covered under the individual pots wouldn't be as hard to cover. On top of that, Medicare for all would also solve a lot of the issues with personal care attendants as well. Currently, the personal care systems are delegated to the Medicaid systems under each state, and with that, each state decides, what home care each of their residents gets according to state guidelines. And quite often, what happens to people with disabilities like myself, is we end up in nursing homes, just because those state guidelines don't exist for a lot of those states. And the last point that I really want to drive home is that my father passed away in 2008 from a sudden heart attack. Friday night came around, he was having chest pains, he had had a cold the week before. And with his insurance, he didn't want to go to the hospital to pay, his deductible. And Saturday night came around, and he had a massive heart attack. It didn't take his life right away, but he was on life support and survived for an additional 5 weeks after that. And with Medicare for All, we wouldn't have to worry about those deductibles, those out-of-pocket expenses. And I think truly, if we had Medicare for All, like, my father would be alive today. So those are my reasons for supporting Medicare for All. Once again, I'm JJ Wett. I am running for Ward 2 in DeKalb, Illinois.
Hello, I'm Aldous Tyler. I host a talk show here in Madison, Wisconsin known as TMI with Aldous Tyler every Friday on 91.7 FM WSUM. But I'm not here for that today. I'm here to talk to you about healthcare. This really should be pretty simple. When it comes to healthcare, if you have a health problem, you should have the means by which you can solve it. I mean, alright, take myself for example. I have high blood pressure. Didn't realize how bad it was until September of 2020. I was having headaches, horrible time, so bad, in fact, that I was getting nauseous from them. As it happens, my stepson had a condition which allowed us to have a blood pressure cuff here at home, so I was able to take a look, and that came back at over 200 over 100. So in other words, way above anything that I should have been doing. It was what was called a hypertensive emergency. The situation, of course, is that I don't have any healthcare coverage. I still don't, and I didn't back then either. And so what that meant was, the word emergency is right there, hypertensive emergency. I had to treat it as an emergency and go to the ER. They actually admitted me right away because it was indeed an emergency. I was to the point where if they were not able to get my blood pressure down, organ damage could have occurred very quickly. Thankfully, they were able to do that. It was relatively swift. I was home before midnight, and that was with arriving around 7 p.m. Now, you would think, 7 p.m. arrival, home by midnight, wow, that's a quick ER visit, no problem, right? You see, my health care came at the expense of my financial well-being entirely. I have had to since declare bankruptcy in order to fight the bill because there was no way I could possibly pay it. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. I am making just enough to tread water as it is. I can't take a sudden bill that is thousands of dollars just piling on top of me, and I don't have a good way to get health coverage that can fit within what I make. So, here's the question. Why should this be a problem? We are the wealthiest country in the world. The United States of America has more wealth concentrated here in this nation than any other nation, period. Not just per capita, but absolute. There is no more wealth anywhere else in the world. Now, if you want to know something interesting, the top billionaires, well, just the billionaires, if you have $1 billion or more to your name, the billionaires, if you will, hold $9.5 trillion worth of value just themselves. There are only a little over 2,000 billionaires. So let's just say for a minute, I want everyone in America to have health care. I want you to have health care. I want me to have health care. I want everyone to have health care. And the cost would be about $1.5 trillion to set up, right? Seriously, just be about $1.5 trillion, maybe 2 at the most, to set up a system that could sustain itself at that point. At that point, it would take minimal contribution from everybody to keep it moving. Now, you can come up with $1.5 trillion and $2 trillion and still not even come close to reducing the number of billionaires in this country. You can still have all 2,000 billionaires be worth more than $1 billion, barely touching the ranks, in fact, and pay for what would be a self-sustaining system. Now, here's what I mean by self-sustaining. Be careful, because I want to make sure we're being clear about this. I'm talking about a system in which you don't have to pay when you go see the doctor. I don't have to pay when I go see the doctor. You have to go get medicine from the pharmacy. You don't pay for it then. No, I don't pay for it then. You and I pay for it with our taxes. Now you're going, oh, all this additional taxes. How could you possibly want that? Here's how. Because right now, your average health plan that you would get from your employer is taking about 20% of your wages. It's often more. Meanwhile, the amount of taxes it would take you as an individual if you paid into a nationally put together and pooled tax pool that would keep this already established, already self-sustaining system that I'm talking about ready to roll, all it would take from you is 4%. Now, let me help you out with this, because I understand math isn't everybody's strong suit, but that's 1/5 of what the average person pays for health care. Most people pay 5 times as much for their health care right now than they would under a system where everybody paid in 4%, everybody would be covered, no one would be left having to wonder if they have to declare bankruptcy just to make ends meet. No one would be stuck worrying that maybe they can't keep the roof over their head just because they wind up with high blood pressure, just because they wind up ill. Your kid brings home something from school, illness-wise. If you don't have coverage and it hits you particularly hard, and it can, why is it your fault? Why is it something that has to bankrupt you? Why is it something that you have to spend at least 20% of your wages on in order to get minimal coverage? And let's be clear, Medicare for All, as it's known, universal health care, we're not talking about the kind of lousy coverage that your 20% of your paycheck pays for. We are talking strictly about everything being covered. No exceptions. Dental, covered. Therapy, covered. Pharmaceuticals, covered. Got diabetic supplies? Covered. Do you need tests? Covered. Labs? Covered. Deductibles? None. None. Copays? There's no copays here. You already paid in with that 4% in taxes. Do you see what I'm trying to tell you? We're talking about a vastly superior system, and we can do it. We can do it because we are the wealthiest country in the world. We can put people on the moon. We can solve anything if we fight for it, if we put our resources together and do it, and if we finally tell these 2,000 plus billionaires, hey, could you spare collectively $1 trillion or $2 so we could put this thing together? The answer, by the way, is yes. They can spare it. And it would spare everybody else, even them, an awful lot of time and trouble. So again, I'm Aldous Tyler from Madison, Wisconsin. And if you liked what you heard, you can always catch me, TMI with Aldous Tyler, 5 p.m., WSUM 91.7 FM in Madison, TMI.com, that's TMI 3 times.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, and this is very important, the billionaires aren't going to listen to me and say, oh yeah, here's $1 trillion or two. Call your senator. Call your representative. Get in touch with President Joe Biden and tell him, Joe, we got you in there to get Trump out. Now you actually have to govern. And now you gotta get us the help we need. Do it. Thank you.
One.
Welcome back, everyone, to the St. Patrick's Day of Action Medicare for All Mail-a-thon. We're the Heartland Mommas, and we're back to give you a break from all the entertainment and horror stories of bad medical care and to bring you some views that you can use about Medicare for All. And here, Murray, do you know why I'm wearing my hat? I'm Heidi Henry, by the way. That's Murray Burrell, my partner. Hey, partner. Do you know why I'm wearing my hat, Murray? Come on. Murray doesn't like my hat. Hello, Murray.
I'd like our listeners and those of you who have just joined us to know that, yes, I am here. And as you will see, my dear beloved partner, Heidi Henry, we've been through thick and thin as candidates, as show hosts, interviewing presidential candidates. We've gone around the country, and this is what happens when you don't have Medicare for all. Heidi doesn't have access to the mental health care she desperately needs because she has some diluted sense of reality about craziness, which I love because I speak like 5 different versions of crazy. I think I'm almost on like dialect 6 of crazy. But her getup, it's funny that we say that and we're joking, but you know, having mental health care is so important. And as we've seen, particularly in the last year, it is more important than ever. And going forward, particularly going forward, because we are going to have a shared trauma worldwide that is extremely impactful to all aspects of our lives, our physical health, the economy, everything. So we really need a way, a vehicle for people to be able to get mental health care that they need, that they want, and it shouldn't kill them to do it. They shouldn't have to go bankrupt to do it.
Exactly, Murray. And you know that I almost bankrupted from medical costs when my son was sick. And we'll talk about that in the next our next segment. But right now, I'm wearing my hat as homage to the fact that preserving the for-profit healthcare system is like preserving the Pony Express for mail delivery. I don't see any delineation, Marie. I think it's the same stupid argument.
Oh my gosh, I'm just so sorry. Hat. I love my partner. She is the best. But she is also absolutely crazy. Yes, I can completely see if we were back in the olden days, you would be a Pony Express rider without a doubt, Heidi.
No, I'm not
no
Mabel.
Doubt you would have been.
Oh, not right. Wiry.
They wouldn't let women do that. That's right. Well, I could see you pulling a Joan of Arc of the Pony Express. My fearless partner.
That would be my jam. That would be so my jam.
It would totally be your jam.
You know, Marie, I had wanted to bring a horse in here because I have lots of horses outside and do like a reenactment of the Pony Express, but you said no. So I went with the hat.
I had to stop her. So, folks, if you're just jumping in, we wanted to let you know that we are Heartland Mommas, MAMAS.com, and we live stream Tuesdays and Thursdays on Facebook at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have a lot of listeners all over the place, and we're quite popular in some other countries as well. We also have an independent radio show, and that's where we get a chance to go deeper into the topics that we do, and that's Heartland Mommas Unrolled on independent radio. So if you like what you hear, please, first off, write the darn cards. letters, whatever paper and envelope stamp thing connection you have to make it go to where it needs to go, which Pete will tell you all about, do that. And the second thing is, be sure to tune in and share. Let everybody know that you think that we were at least adequately funny. All right, Heidi.
So, like, subscribe, share, Heartland Mommas, MAMAS.com. We're going to throw back to Peter Janko and some more wonderful music, performers, and sadly, Medicare for All horror stories. So take care now, everybody. We'll see you after the break. Pete Janko, this is on you now. Take it, partner.
Oh, no.
And now your host, yes, an Illinois political know-it-all. Chicago Raider columnist Benny J. Joravsky.
Peter Janko is in the studio, and he brought a guest. All right, Larry Cohen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be with the legend.
Legend, that's what I am. I'm a legend.
Yeah.
So, Larry, I want to come back to something you said. And during the debate, we've talked about this so much time on the show. We analyze the debates after every single debate. And in there, not so much the last debate, but the previous ones, the Democratic presidential debates, there was a theme that emerged. And in those debates, Bernie Sanders was very clear. We need health care for all. Mm-hmm. That is a top on our agenda. I find it very hard to argue with that. I'm an old lefty. So, but immediately there will be a counterattack from the centrists. And I can name like four of them. Amy Klobuchar would say this. Joe Biden would say this. That for a while there was a guy Bennett. There was Michael Bennett. There's so many different candidates who've been on that stage. Some of them are no longer there. Bernie, you're unrealistic. You cannot have this. You can't get this through Congress. You have to be realistic, Bernie. Or then they go, we'll lose swing voters in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania because they're worried they're going to have to give up their private health care. They love their private health care. There's union. There was the guy, Tim Ryan, the congressman. Unions have negotiated for this, Bernie. How dare you take away? So what is your response to that? Like, you must be watching these debates and conjuring a response in your mind. What is your response?
Well, that issue, so I was president of CWA for 10 years, 600,000 members. Every contract got taken over by the fight to keep the health care that we had that was bargained a generation before me. Every contract, Ben. Every contract. And despite that, and we had huge strikes like at Verizon, solely around holding on to health care. I'm talking about people out for 100 days. Despite all that, every time, the premiums go up, the deductible goes up, the co-payments go up. There's networks. Or is my doctor in the network or out of the network? That is the big lie. Are we that happy in America, spending twice as much as in every other democracy? Twice as much, 17% of GDP, when the average is 10, and we have worse outcomes. What's an outcome? How long do we live? How many kids die? Any outcome you would pick that are measured worldwide by the World Health Organization, we are not at the top on the outcomes, way at the top on the spending. And so, more so than even Bernie, my pitch on this, and I see a lot of union people, that's basically how the part of our revolution that I helped build, is how many more horror stories do we need? Construction workers, a guy in New Hampshire told me recently, he's now a business agent, Larry, I fell. Luckily, it was only from 6 feet, but I landed on my head, had a concussion. Good news? My health care was great. Bad news, I went back to work, didn't have enough hours in that 6-month period. My wife and 2 kids and I had no health care for 6 months until I qualified again. This is, and in my own union, as I said, the premium's going up and up and up. At Verizon, with all those strikes, now it's $400 a month premium, and the company is still paying 33% of payroll. So, we're talking about over $30,000 a year per family for health care. It's a disgrace what exists in this country. And preying on people's fears that it's going to cost working people more money is a big lie. And I'll take any Democrat over this president at the end of the day. But I'm also going to fight for Medicare for all. It's within reach. It's the right thing to do. It will cut our costs. Things like long-term care. Everybody I know is scared about long-term care. Again, a postal worker leader in New Hampshire a couple of weeks ago, Janice, says to me, Larry, we have great health care, federal government workers. My husband got Parkinson's. Now we're selling our house to pay for his long-term care. Every other people who have kids who have disabilities, we don't cover it in any of these plans. None of the union plans cover long-term care beyond initial rehabilitation. What we have and what we pay for it is a disgrace. We need to call it out. In my opinion, the economic case comes ahead of the moral case. I love Bernie. I appreciate the moral case. The economic case, I could do it in an elevator ride, lay out the numbers of how we pay for Medicare for all out of what we spend now. No income taxes. Payrolls, taxes, 10% additional on employers. That saves them a fortune. As I said, Verizon, 33% of payroll. They'd be glad to pay 10. Most small businesses, 20, 25% payroll costs, if you look at it that way, to provide health care for them. Give them a 10% payroll tax, they save a fortune. And that's the main way that we would pay for it. Plus the savings, 22% administrative costs. I don't know if you ever had to use health care. I'm fortunate, blessed, knock on wood, very little. But recently I had an eye problem, and you get these pages and pages of bills. That's what we're paying for. 22% of healthcare is administration. Nobody, I'm not stupid, but I can't figure out the bill. I just put it in a filing cabinet. If they say pay $100, I pay it. Yeah. It's impossible. 22%. Medicare administrative costs is actually, I was corrected by the former head of MMS under Obama, 2.6% versus 20% administrative costs. That alone, Ben, is a savings of $600 billion a year. And if you add up that saving, the existing cost, government now spends $1.9 trillion on healthcare. Total bill $3 trillion, right? You add up the $1.9 trillion, the $600 billion on administrative savings. Pharma, we're paying twice as much in these plans that supposedly everybody loves as the VA pays, and as China just negotiated, 50% less in China than what we pay here for the drugs that are produced here. That's if we cut that in half, that's a $250 billion saving. Add the 10% payroll tax. Now we have Medicare for all.
All right. Peter Jenko is dying to get a word in edgewise. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. You nailed my favorite subject with no rehearsal.
Well, I got some comebacks for you, but go ahead, young Peter.
Okay. I made an interesting observation. We're in Trump country and there's conservatives and, they don't buy into a lot of the Medicare for all stuff, right? So then I started thinking about this. I had some pushback. I had some people, oh, Pete, you're running for state rep. What the hell do you want Medicare for all? Why? It's not your issue, right? And I said, wait a minute. It is, okay? Because it's no secret that the state of Illinois has a severe budget crisis, okay? And so I went through the latest budget, and I'm trying to figure out just how much money the state is paying, like premiums for its employees, for the pensioners, even what we pay for Medicaid. I can't figure it out. I mean, there's $1 million here, $1 million buried there, all that. But I know for a fact Medicaid alone is 22% of our state budget. Okay? Imagine what we can do with an extra 22% in our coffers. So, I mean, Springfield should be down, let's go and push our federal,
Absolutely. You're shoving more of the costs onto the federal government so the state picks up less. And so obviously there's going to be more money for the state to spend on other things.
Well, see, they can just keep printing money. We can't.
That's right.
I hadn't thought of that one, but that's well put. Peter Jenko from McHenry County.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Saul. I'm coming to you from the northern Illinois area, Loves Park to be exact. I've been an advocate for Medicare for All for well over a decade, probably closer to 20 years, actually. And there are so many different stories out there. Mine aren't anywhere near as dramatic or heartbreaking as so many of the other, speakers who have spoken during this event, but I have had my fair share of surgeries, and I can tell you that, despite having really good insurance through being a school bus driver with a public school district, that I still go home with thousands of dollars in bills every single time. I've had surgeries on my ankles and my shoulder, and I cannot tell you that no matter how, despite the fact of how much I pay in premiums, in the co-pays, it's a broken system. And I've written about it. You can go to medium.com and look up my name, David Saul, Soll, and put that in with Medicare for All. I'm sure my article will pop up. I've written, for Real Progressives .org, I believe. I've also had my stuff printed in the local papers, Rockville Register Star. So obviously we are all here today, doing our small part to advocate for Medicare for all. That President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, all of our Congress people, that we need to get them all on board. And obviously, as everyone else has already alluded to, the whole point of this event is to try and get you, the listener, the watcher, if you would, to write a letter, whether it be an email, a postcard, whatever, to the White House, to your Congress people, call them up, leave messages, whatever it takes. We need Medicare for all. Everyone knows this. It's common sense, and it makes perfect sense. There are things above our abilities as individuals to do on our own. And I think healthcare, at least the ability to access it, should be off the table as far as profitability, is concerned. And, I have no problem with people, the medical equipment people making a few bucks, when they invent something, that's fine. The pharmaceutical companies, I get that they're going to make a small amount of profit, but what they're doing is downright train robbery. And, and one of the speakers earlier tonight, Raina, is my niece, and it is true. I mean, she is diabetic and she cannot afford her medicines every month, and she has to cut back, and that just angers me to no end. My sister, which is Raina's mom, Sherry, had brain cancer, and now even Medicare for All wouldn't have saved her, but that's not the point. The point of bringing her up is that her husband and the family, they had to hold a couple of fundraisers just to pay the bills. And I mean, my sister didn't do anything wrong. She didn't live an unhealthy lifestyle. It happened, and it's sad, and it took a toll on everybody. And those are the kinds of things that simply need to go away and will go away under a Medicare for All system. HR 1384 is the one that I fully believe in. That's Representative Pramila Jayapal out of Washington. She wrote the bill, that bill. Bernie Sanders wrote the sister bill, I guess you could call it, for the Senate, S 1804. I hope that's the right number. And anyways, I could go on and on and on, and I've already spoken now for nearly 5 minutes, and I can only say, please, write the letter to Joe Biden, make the phone calls, write the email, whatever it takes. Even write a letter to the editor. Every chance you get, talk to somebody. Get a button. Get one of these buttons. They exist. This is Medicare for All, Northern Illinois. That's a Facebook group, actually. And then the single payer improved. Healthcare is a human right. That's true. It is. We're not talking about forcing doctors to do anything that they wouldn't already be doing. And the nurses. They won't be government employees. It's just one single place that your doctor, which, by the way, would be the doctor that you like, you get to keep that doctor, because if everyone is under the same, program, and we're talking everybody, okay? We're not, we're talking from the President of the United States to Congress, the lobbyists, all the way down to the little guys and girls like us. I'm a school bus driver, and like I said, despite having the one of the greater healthcare insurance programs, I still end up with bills, and medical bankruptcies. That doesn't happen in any other country except for ours. You ask anyone in Canada, the Netherlands, Denmark, Japan, Cuba, You know, I mean, Costa Rica has some form of single payer, for heaven's sakes. You know, if all these smaller, and, you know, and don't sit here and try and tell me about we're a much larger, you know, we have 330 million people and they only got 7 or 8 million. It's proportionality, people, okay? Proportionality. So, you know, learn what that means and you'll figure it out. You know, Medicare for All is so important. I can't stress it enough times, you know, and obviously at this point you've heard that enough from everybody. So, okay, so right President Biden, right Kamala Harris, right your Congress people, right your governors, right your state reps. Get everyone on board, man. Get them all on board. You know, why not? Let's do this at the grassroots level. Take this up at your if you're a precinct committee person at your county level, meetings, or just show up at your city councils, meetings, school boards, who cares? Bring up Medicare for All everywhere you can, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us to get this done. They're not going to do it in DC, not even, AOC, Ilhan Omar. I mean, bless their hearts that that they are the good people. I do believe that. I do not believe for a second that they are corrupt. I think what it is they are getting comfortable a little bit, but we need to keep pushing them. Jimmy Dore was right with his force the vote. Maybe I didn't necessarily agree with his overall tactic of how he presented it, but he wasn't wrong. Force the vote, on Medicare for All. And from our perspective, you don't have to bring up how Jimmy Dore did it, okay? You don't have to do that at all, but write it, and be nice about it, of course, be respectful, but we need to get this done, all of us, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take every single person who hears my voice, who has heard all the other people speaking. We all have to do our part. And, and that's the only way it's going to happen, because they're not going to do it on their own. The lobbyists aren't going to, stop, all of a sudden, even if there's 10 million of us, okay? On Facebook, speaking of which, and now that I say a number, I did start a group on Facebook called 200 plus 1 million Americans at that time it was HR 676, but obviously that number is gone now for the original Medicare bill, so now it's HR 1384. Go search it, okay? Search for it. Join that group, let your, speak your piece there, but don't just limit yourself there. Write those letters, write those email, make those phone calls, whatever it takes until we get it done. HR 1384 is, I think, the best option we have. Anyways, I'm reaching 10 minutes now, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you for listening, and, go Medicare for All, because we need it more than ever before. Thank you. Our next speaker here is Clyde Hollins. His is done in PowerPoint, so if you are listening on the radio, you'll have to find this video on YouTube to see his presentation, but his audio should hopefully be good enough for now. So take it away, Clyde.
So I have a little different take on Medicare for All than others. While I basically agree with all the other pro-Medicare for All positions, like those that, a global pandemic can make painfully obvious, I believe there's an often overlooked but equally important reason to implement a single-payer system. Medicare for All benefits our society in several areas where our government allows the prioritization of profit over people, or more specifically, profit over health. If the government were paying for our health care, they would do more to protect our health. Let's look at nutrition. We are the most obese nation on earth. Over 40% of our citizens were obese pre-pandemic, and I can't say for sure, but I would wager I'm not the only one who put on a couple pounds in the last year. Back in the 1950s, studies showed that sugar was the culprit behind obesity and its associated health risks, and yet low fat is the US mantra. Why? One of the major reasons is because of disinformation campaigns by the sugar industry. That our government stood by and did nothing should make us all quite salty. Our government also allows unhealthy food additives like high fructose corn syrup in our food. Why? In a word, profit. High fructose corn syrup costs less, but in studies can cause twice the weight gain of sugar. Eliminating it as an additive in food would greatly impact our health for the better. Also, we allow poison on our crops. Unhealthy additives, quote unquote, honey, that can label itself as honey without actually containing any honey. Courts have confirmed the harmful effects of glyphosate, and yet our government still allows its use. And don't get me started on PFASs or forever chemicals in our blood and the 60 years of deception involved in all that. All of these things contribute to expensive medical issues the government doesn't care about because they don't pay the bill. By implementing a single-payer system where the government pays for our health care, the balance sheet starts to tip in favor of health. Let's look at the environment. Europe stopped using lead paint 100 years ago, and yet we kept using lead paint into the late 1970s. Why? Money. Corporate lobbyists legally bribe our politicians and literally write legislation for them to introduce in Congress. Finally, our government started funding lead paint removal, which was supposed to take about 10 years. 50 years later, most of it remains. We also built federal housing on sites that previously housed lead factories. We're finding lead poisoning in those residents and their children. Not only have we not cleaned up that lead, we now have a huge lead water pipe problem in over 3,000 neighborhoods. We allow the fossil fuel industry to pollute and poison our water, land, and air, from oil spills in the ocean to overland pipeline spills. That does not even count the injuries from climate change disasters that require medical treatment. Injuries from tornadoes and hurricanes, temperature swings that freeze us in Texas one day and burn our forests in California the next, or floods in Louisiana and Florida. With the frequency of these occurrences rising, the amount of production being taken out of our economy is astronomical. All these contribute to expensive medical issues that the government doesn't care about because they don't pay the bill. By implementing a single-payer system where the government pays for our health care, the balance sheet starts to tip in favor of health. Medicare for all would result in a healthier population and benefit our health indirectly in a multitude of ways. The benefit to the country and the government will quickly become apparent as they see their medical costs plummet and the increased tax revenue from a healthier, more productive workforce. This is the quickest and easiest way to start taking our country back from corporations and big money donors. No constitutional amendment required. Pressure your representatives, call them, tell them you will not support them unless they support, vote for, and pass a true Medicare for all single-payer system.
Our next speaker is Raina. She is an art major student at NIU in DeKalb, Illinois. So, Raina, tell us your story. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raina Williams, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about healthcare. A little bit about me before we start. I am a current student at Northern Illinois University studying art education and psychology. The reason healthcare is an important topic to me is because I am someone who has been personally affected by the U.S. healthcare system and all of its beautiful flaws. So, to start, it's important to understand what healthcare actually is. According to the Oxford Dictionary, it's the organized provision of medical care to individuals or a community. In the US, everyone can technically receive healthcare. It's a matter of how they will afford it. It's encouraged that everyone have health insurance, and in the United States, they primarily rely on employers to voluntarily provide health insurance coverage to their employees and dependents. Unfortunately, though, there is no health planning at the federal level, and state planning efforts vary from none to stringent reviews of hospital and nursing home construction projects. This leads to a very unbalanced view of understanding healthcare, what it means, and if or if not it should be universal. Next, it's important to understand Medicare. According to the Board of Trustees of the Federal Insurance Trust Fund, Medicare is a uniform national health insurance program for the aged and disabled. It is the single largest health insurer in the country, covering about 13% of the population, including virtually all elderly 65 years of age or older, and certain persons with disabilities or kidney failure. So you may be wondering, why is there no Medicare for all? Well, according to Blendon, Edwards, and Donnellan, there is no consensus that has emerged on the direction fundamental reform should take. There is a divided political control of the administration and the Congress. Budget pressures at both the federal and state levels make it unlikely that there will be substantial new money to finance reforms. The public is unhappy with the health system as a whole, but satisfied with their own doctor. And the public is unwilling to pay more than a small amount in new taxes to finance changes. There's a large confusion as to why people want Medicare for all. And no, it's not because we are lazy and don't want to work for our money. It's because in the US, healthcare has turned into a corporation full of competitors, commercialization, and profit. US citizens are pushed to want Medicare for all due to these reasons, plus the rising costs of medication. According to an article I found on healthaffairs.org, excessive focus on healthcare as a business has had a destructive effect on both patients and caregivers, leading to increasing difficulties for many patients in accessing care and to anger, frustration, and burnout for many caregivers, especially those attempting to provide critical primary care. The ranks of primary care providers have eroded, and that erosion continues. One of the major reasons for burnout in this group is because of the clash between its members' professional ethics, put the patient first and first do no harm, and the profit-oriented demands of their corporate employers. Some other quotes that I found from there that I thought were really beneficial were, "We pay more than twice as much per person on total healthcare spending and on prescription drugs in comparison to other developed countries. This spending totals nearly 18% of our economy." Between 2008 and 2018, premiums for employer-sponsored insurance plans increased 55%, twice as fast as workers' earnings. Over the same time period, the average health insurance deductible for covered workers increased by 212%. An average employer-sponsored family health insurance policy now exceeds $28,000 per year, with employees paying around $16,000, and employees paying about $12,000. Almost half, 45%, of U.S. adults ages 19 to 64, or more than 88 million people, were inadequately insured over the past year. Compared to the other developed countries, the U.S. ranks to the bottom on a variety of health indicators, including infant mortality, life expectancy, and preventable mortality. So we've covered the basics of what and why. So now we must approach the how. Advanced care planning has a few suggestions for approaches, such as Coverage should not be dependent on a person's place of residence, employment, health status, or income. Coverage should ensure sufficient access to clinicians, hospitals, and other sources of care. Two options could achieve these objectives: a single-payer financing approach or a publicly financed coverage option to be offered along with regulated private insurance. If all of these sources didn't speak to you in some way, maybe this will. I'm now going to talk about how I've been personally affected by the US healthcare system, and I'm only at the age of 21, mind you. When I was at the age of 9, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. My father didn't have the best insurance plan, but we did everything we could to make sure that my mother was taken care of, and she was a miracle case because she did make it through that. Because of the lack of our own funds, because they were all going into her health care, we suffered a lot. I developed an eating disorder due to having to eat cheap fast food most of the time. My mental health deteriorated, and so did my brother's, and we couldn't afford the help that we needed. We also struggled with the thought of losing our house, which is not good for any child to grow up with, or any adult to deal with. Then by the age of 15, I was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic, and it was a whole new world for me. I didn't understand a lot of the things that they were telling me. I was in the hospital for a week, and that was hard to come back from. I thankfully have a good support system, and I was not going to let that defeat me, so I'm the type of person to raise awareness. I've raised money through the years, held fundraisers, and done all sorts of different artwork to show what healthcare means to me and how things can change for the better. This past year, I wasn't able to afford emergency medical supplies. Despite them being deemed an emergency by my doctor, my insurance failed to cover what I needed in order to succeed because it wasn't necessary in their eyes. What I needed was a Dexcom G6, which is a glucose monitor. I was having such high and low blood sugars that it was affecting my everyday. I wouldn't wake up from low blood sugars or high blood sugars, so I was at risk when I was sleeping at night. I also would drop during the day while driving, in classes, and I just wouldn't know because I couldn't feel it. I started my own small business to raise money and awareness for my situation, and thankfully I was able to purchase a Dexcom G6, and my blood sugars are doing much better and my health is improving. But on the downside, I still have to pay these bills. I'm still in debt at the age of 21 from school and now medical supplies. And there's no justice here. So what I continue to argue for through my artwork and through my speaking is to just view these sort of things through someone else's eyes. Walk a mile in someone else's shoes if you do not understand what it's like. Because it's dire that we get Medicare for all and that everyone is able to afford to live despite the conditions that they have. So how do we make a change? Well, we get educated. I did a lot of learning just through these slides. As you can tell, I used a lot of sources because it's hard for me to talk about these things in a constructed manner. So it's important for me to have a script or something to base a script off of. And educate others. Don't go and argue on Facebook or any other social media platform. Instead, post sources. And not Facebook sources, but scholarly articles. Do your research, do your reading. Stay up to date. And just remember that you can't educate someone who doesn't want to be educated. It's okay. Don't exhaust yourself because there are other people who want to learn, and you just have to go out there and find them. Use social media, post your personal stories, raise awareness, and don't stop talking about it. I'm also going to encourage you to write to your local congressperson or president. about why Medicare for All means so much to you and why it's important for you. And together we can make a change. These are all the sources that I used. Feel free to please check them out. Some of them are from the 90s and some of them are recent years. And I think it's interesting to just sort of catch up on all of this knowledge that we have at our fingertips thanks to Google. Thank you everybody for listening and giving me your attention. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to personally thank my Uncle David for supporting me and giving me a platform to speak on. I really appreciate him. He does amazing work. Bye.
Peace. Hello there. I'm Bear Wolf, founder of Changeling Studios. You can find us on YouTube, Changeling Studios. Today you're going to see two performances. You're going to see one by Propaganda Poet, spoken word slam artist. And then you're also going to see the musical stylings of Oso Lobo as he growls some of his opinions into the world. You may also notice my work garb, as you see. Well, just keep in mind that it's because I work this low-paying job that I'm on Medicaid, and it's because of that that I have the time and the freedom to work on Changeling Studios. Think about that. There are important things going on here, not just finances. Hello, and thank you for checking in. Whether you are a part of all of this, if you're behind the scenes and making it happen, or if you're just checking in to see what it's all about, thank you for being a part of this discussion, Medicare for All. We need to have it. I'm confused sometimes as to why it's even a discussion, but regardless, I understand there are other points of view. Capitalist profits drive research and development. I understand a lot of the arguments, et cetera, but it's, let me share what I think is a unique perspective with my experience. I would like to share you now. For the last 4 or 5 years I've been on Medicaid, and I've experienced a new kind of freedom, which in a country that claims freedoms are important should be one of the primary freedoms. And it is freedom from having to worry about whether or not I can afford to live. Because that changes everything. If you no longer have to worry about being able to afford to live and afford to be healthy, then you can spend time at any job you want because you don't have to worry about medical benefits. You can get a couple part-time jobs instead of focusing on a career, and focus on music and art and poetry and performing and traveling, which is what I have been able to do now since I haven't had to worry about my health care. It's amazing what can happen. And so instead of having to work, constantly dedicating everything to someone who may or may not appreciate that, I can focus on the things that make my spirit grow, which then helps my physical health to grow and maintain itself. And it just makes sense that almost every other industrialized country in the world has this freedom, but the country that claims to be all about freedom does not. It is a bit confusing. So I hope that you understand that Medicare for All is a very, very complex issue with a lot to it, that it would release us. It would release us into a society that we are not used to, which would be amazing. So anyway, regardless, write Joe Biden, call your Congress people, just get the word out there that this is what we want, that we as a people want this for our country so that our entire country can heal and move forward and get better. I know that a lot of people after the last 4 years are feeling a lot better. They're seeing things, hope, there's new beginnings, we're moving forward, but it's important to remember that this is just the beginning. There are a lot of issues that we still have to work on, like Medicare for All, and a few others that we'll discuss later. But for right now, we have to recognize that this is our wake-up call. Blue horizons are just the beginning. Blue may have won the day, but America is still lost. The cost of living is making a killing. Rampant racism races through our veins. The stains of red rain still flood the underprivileged. True equality is still being pushed to the back of this bipartisan party bus, but ain't nobody going to be able to stop us if we will actually learn how to work together. This classism crap has got to go, for this victory is hollow if this is all that we have to show for it. If we are truly going to rise, then we have to be wise enough to recognize that we have to rise above this entire white privilege mess. Now, I must confess that I'm still a bit worried that if we hurry through this need to declare victory prematurely, then we are surely in for more. Red stains are still raining shame in many places and fear on many faces. If we are truly going to recover, then we need to learn how to rediscover each other. We must not let freedom allow us to become numb. Otherwise, we are merely free to be dumb. Now, I mean it sincerely when I say that by all means enjoy this celebration day, but our true victory is still quite a ways away. You see, this isn't merely the disaster of the day. These tears and fears are in serious arrears. It has been 550 years in the making. This vision of a troubled America has toxic masculinity as just part of the scenery, and it's growing increasingly isolationist and tribal, and we're frightened into survival mode, left to be fighting amongst ourselves, while others are still pilfering our shelves for themselves. But we should not be surprised. We should not be surprised that to see the demise of a time when science was denied while millions died and despotic leaders continued to hide behind religious right to frighten and incite people into attempted homicides, while others just sat on the sidelines of this great white lie, finding safety in the shadows, just spectating, watching it gain its wings and fly. It was called the Dark Ages for a reason, and it didn't actually work. So now it's best we get to work. We are officially on the clock of this crap just got real time. So let's step it up, my artistic and scientific community, ergo and thusly renaissance, shall we? That I am propaganda poet. That is my spoken word slam poetry performance persona. I will now introduce you to Oso Lobo, who is the musical portion of our show. Does pretty much the same thing, but growls with musical accompaniment to get the points across. So, again, Medicare for all, let them know, that's what we want. But also, there are other things that are just as important that we have to keep our eyes on the prize. Climate change, we need to be real, guys. Like, it's... And, you know, we need to be real. Chief Seattle said it best. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. lows, record highs, record lows, record highs, record lows. Underwater, under mud, under snow, another flood. Today it's hot, tomorrow's cold. Geese are flying northwest this winter. So I hope you got your shit together. Hope you are quite prepared to die. Looks like we're in for nasty weather. One eye is taken for an eye. Don't go around tonight, but it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. There's a bad moon on the rise. There's a bad moon on the rise. I got one more song for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, let them know, write Biden, write Congress. We want to be able to have the freedom to live. Remember that. Drives me crazy. Drives me so crazy that I want to just... I'm a pacifist. I am. But, man, here lately, if I had a hammer, I'd hammer out some justice. If I had a bell, I'd ring their bells for freedom. If I had a song, it'd probably actually go something more like this. Here comes the helicopter for the second time today. Everybody's scattered and hopes it goes away. How many kids they've murdered, only God can say. If I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, I'd make somebody pay. I don't believe in building walls, and I don't believe in hate. But I'm tired of all this propaganda covering up these tortured states. When survivors speak of things too sickening to relate. If I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, I would retaliate. At the Rio Grande Detention Center, tens of thousands weep and wait to fall down from starvation or some less humane fate. Why does the U.S. punish them just for trying to escape? If I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, don't you? I would not hesitate. I've gotta sing for all the voiceless. At least I've gotta try. 'Cause every time I think about it now, water just drops out my eyes. Situation desperate, echoes of the victim's cry. Now, I swear to you, I am not a violent man. I'm not. And I really do believe in love and hope and peace and all of that. I do. It's just right now, at this point in time, if I had a hammer, I'd crack some freaking skulls in. And I'd knock some freaking teeth out all over the floor. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, if I had a rocket launcher, some son of a bitch would die. Peace, love, hope, let's fight together and make this country a better place, because it really can be one of the greatest countries in the world if we just make it so. I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy and happy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the St. Patrick's Day Day of Action Medicare for All Mail-a-thon. I'm Heidi Henry, that's Marie Briel, and we are the Heartland Mommas. We're so glad that you took time to spend with us today to watch all these wonderful performances and listen into some of these heart-wrenching stories about people who needed health care or lost everything in the meantime, trying to stay well.
A big thank you to Peter Jenko and the Medicare for All team and everything that they did to put this together and to include us on this. Medicare for All is one of the topics that we cover regularly on our show. We do deep dives into things, everyday things you might not know about, from analyzing legislation to political climates and where different groups stand in the world. So tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, live on Facebook at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. But if you don't tune in then, you can always get us on podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, everywhere. On YouTube. And you can find our links at our website. And our website is Heartland Mommas.
MAMAS.com. And tune into independent radio and listen to Heartland Mommas Unrolled as we take deep dives on different issues, including Medicare for All. And, you know, on our shows, we do everything from teaching you how to run for office, from where to begin, where to go. We have wonderful, wonderful guests. I love to teach people how to protest.
She's got her cowbell. Okay, if you find her entertaining, I swear you'll find our shows entertaining as well. And I have been to many a protest with Heidi, and we have been there with the show, and her cowbell is always a hit. In fact, if anybody out there has a hookup on bulk cowbells and we want to do a merch thing, contact us. We might do it now that the pandemic's almost over. But you know what we could do even more of when the pandemic is over? Challenging the system. And that means changing legislation. So we need to get on this, writing our
We do. The
White
get out
House,
your
President Biden.
Your note cards. These are all wonderful little things that you can mail to President Biden. Well, I just dropped that one, so I'll have to send him this one. And I'm going to write a little note in a green pen, Dear President Biden, we need Medicare for all, and we need it right now. So I'm so glad that Pete Janko came through and gave you all that information on how to do that, because it's so very important that we stay on top of this. you don't know unless you've had a catastrophic illness in your family or in your neighborhood, amongst your friends, your child. You don't know what it's like to really have to slog through that. Every sense in your being, everything is tied up with trying to fight for wellness, for the health and wellness of somebody.
And imagine taking that burden off of American citizens. So just picture that burden's taken off of employers, right? That burden's taken off of employees. But more importantly, employees would have the ability to take risks. And America is founded on entrepreneurial spirit. We talk about how capitalism is the most amazing thing in the world. Well, guess what? This is a chance to increase capitalism by allowing people the freedom to branch off and try new things and be wild successes. If we want innovation, if we want advancement, we've got to have people not tied down to jobs for healthcare. And so they can spread their wings. All of this is connected, guys. And you know it, and we know it, and we try to spread the word on our shows.
Right.
In helping people understand, it just sometimes doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, Marie. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we
just like
tie people down.
Heidi's a vintage football jersey, her
Queen
of the Damned Victorian green Zelda jewelry, her cowboy hat, and hey, I did that at Christmas, though. I got to give you props, Heidi. I know I gave you a hard time, but I really want to say, yay! I love it. You did fantastic for St. Patrick's Day and for this telethon, but there'll be another one.
Yeah, Easter. So when you're hopping down the bunny trail, pick up some extra cards. Some extra Easter cards. I don't have any, but with lilies or whatever you want to send, and
flowers,
there'll be
bunnies,
another mail-a-thon.
Baskets.
Yeah, Easter
spring solstice. It doesn't have to be religious. I'm not religious. It's perfectly fine.
No,
find a card, send a card for Easter. Wish President Joe Biden and Dr. Biden. Wish them a very happy Easter, health and blessings, and what a blessing it would be if they legislated Medicare for all.
You know what? If anything COVID-19 has shown us is the desperation that people have, especially in rural communities and in red states where they haven't taken Medicaid expansion under the ACA, how desperate people have become for good health care. Nobody should die waiting for health care. Nobody should be buried in debt because they were sick or someone they love was sick. So we hope that you enjoyed our show today. I know that the musical performances and other performances were off the hook.
A big thank you for letting us entertain you while you write cards. Be sure, if you found this interesting at all, we've covered pretty much every topic. So go to Heartland Mommas, MAMAS.com, and you can find links to all of our previous episodes, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you again, Medicare for All, for having us host and write those cards.
Thanks, Pete Janko, for having us. Take care, everybody. See you later. Heartland Mommas out.
Dynamite music. Before I start, what I need everybody to do is to get up on your feet and put one hand high in the air for everybody trying to get healthy. Because what I believe, before you can get your goals up, before you can get your money up, before you can get that bag, you gotta get this Medicare, get your health up. Let's do it.
Medicare. You gotta take Medicare. Medicare. You gotta take Medicare. Medicare is what's best for you. Get healthy now, bring others too. Tweet to the leaders of this world. Medicare for all the boys and girls. Enroll, let's go. Enroll, let's go. Enroll. Medicare for all, Medicare for all. Medicare. Medicare. You gotta take better care. Medicare, better care. Medicare, Medicare, Medicare. You gotta take better care. Better care, better care.
What I need everybody to do is to get up on your feet and put one hand high in the air for everybody trying to get healthy. Because what I believe, before you can get your goals up, before you can get your money up, before you can get that bag, you gotta get this Medicare, get your health up. Let's do it.
Medicare, Medicare, Medicare. You gotta